Hello crafty friends, it's Jess from jesscrafts.com, and today I have a card featuring Newton's Nook designs. The stamp set is Newton Loves Coffee, and I know that there's been a lot of coffee stamp sets out there, coffee cards out there recently because of the Fall Coffee Lovers Hop, which did end last Friday. But this card didn't have the fall theme that would be perfect for the hop, but I still thought it was fun and I wanted to share it with you today. I'm using a whole variety of distress inks: Barn Door, Spiced Marmalade, Mustard Seed, Twisted Citron, Mermaid Lagoon, and the new Wilted Violet. I am going to be doing some stamping with the distress inks. Distress inks aren't always recommended for stamping because they don't give the most solid images, but it's going to work for me today, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. I am using the Tim Holtz watercolor paper. I'm not going to be doing too much watercoloring. The paper, I really like it because it is a pure white, but it doesn't hold up as well to water as a lot of other watercolor papers. So it isn't something I'd use if I wanted to do a lot of water, but since there won't be very much, I think it will work out today. So what I'm going to be doing is stamping in rainbow order. If you follow my channel, you know that I do like to use some rainbow motifs quite often. And I am going to be stamping the coffee cup, then turning it over and stamping it again so that they sort of fit together in a nice pattern. And at first I thought that I would do every 3 coffee cups I would switch the color, but I found that didn't always work out perfectly because I wanted to have each color represented in more of like an even way, and so I kind of just did it more based off of what seemed right rather than a prescribed formula. So there's a few more of some color than others, just so that things look more filled out. And I'm switching in between colors. I'm just wiping it off on a napkin because I don't want the colors to transfer over. I had thought originally that I might be able to pull the color out from the edges because distress ink reacts with water, but there's not quite enough ink, and so I'm going to also be using the distress inks to watercolor as well. I'm going to finish out this pattern, and I decided to once I got to the end, changing colors every about 3, I hadn't filled up the paper completely, and so I just started again in rainbow order. Generally, when using rainbows on a card, the most important thing is that you keep them in the right order because that's what's really pleasing to the eye. And you can see here that I left off a space to maintain the white to add my sentiment, and I did that with some painter's tape from the Dollar Tree. I made sure that it wasn't too sticky by rubbing it off on my arm, and then I taped it down. So now I have a clear area for my sentiment. I decided that once I had all the coffee cups stamped, I liked the rainbow order, but I felt like because the lines are so thin, I wasn't getting enough impactful color, and decided that I would color some of the coffee sleeves with the same colors of distress ink just to make the coffee cups a little bit more bold in some areas. But I didn't want to color every single coffee cup because, one, I thought that would be pretty time consuming, but also because I thought that would then be a lot more overwhelming, and it would be better to create highlights in the card, and it would make it a little bit more interesting and playful. So what I do is I just tap the distress pad onto my Tim Holtz craft sheet, and that will bubble up and resist. I add just a touch of water, like 1 spray from my distress spritzer, and then I start laying the color in. I'm doing just a touch of shading by putting it direct to the paper in the corner and then going into the water and pulling it out. So rather than it all be one solid color, if I use the plain water to get at the edges, it will have a slight shading, and that will lend to the rounded effect of the cups. When I went to color with the Twisted Citron, for some reason my Twisted Citron is a little bit more watery than my other inks, and I have to make sure that it's closing completely. But when I started laying it down on the paper, there was just a bit of pilling. And that's why I mentioned before that Tim Holtz watercolor paper is not my favorite watercolor paper. I like the Canson 140-pound cold press much better, but that's not a pure white. And in this card, when I knew there would be so much white space, I thought it was important to use a pure white. So I knew that I would have to find a way to problem solve and cover up a little bit of that green area. Once I had some of the coffee sleeves on the top colored, I realized that it wouldn't look very good if none of them on the bottom were either, so I found a few on the bottom that I could also color in. Once I had it the way I liked it, I cut it with the Lawn Fawn Stitch rectangle die, and now it's time to cover up that messed up area. I stamped the Birthday Brew for You sentiment from the same stamp set because I thought that it would be nice to always have some extra birthday cards on hand. And to cover up that little area where the green was kind of splotchy, I decided to add some gems. And this would help reinforce the rainbow. And I would create a rainbow order from the top left to the bottom right. And I kind of went through a decision-making process. At first I thought, I'd only add some colors, but then I decided to add the full rainbow. And I'm going to pull out some more gems here, but I found out that I didn't have any orange gems. And that was something I was able to easily remedy by taking an orange Copic marker and coloring some yellow gems till they were slightly more orange color. It works out a little bit interestingly because even though I'm going to add yellow gems, they're not going to be on top of yellow coffee cups. So I started by adding the gems only on top of the coffee cups that coordinated, like the green on the green. But as I went, I realized that I would want to do the full rainbow order. And so that would mean that I would be putting some of the gems not exactly with their matching coffee cups. But I still like the way this adds a little something extra and something a little more special to the card rather than just the plain watercoloring, and that is a sparkle detail. And once I get all of my gems arranged, and there's self-adhesive gems, so it was quite easy, I'm going to mount it on some black cardstock as I traditionally do with my rainbow cards, and that's going to be it for this card today. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you're interested in more crafting tutorials featuring Nook and watercolor, please subscribe to my channel. And thanks for watching. Bye.